prescription, yeah, for this love pain. Anybody got a pill like a pop for this love pain? Anybody got a prayer like a session for this love pain? Yeah, ooh, I need it for this love pain. Anybody got a prescription, yeah, for this love pain? Anybody got a pill like a pop for this love?
Friday evening edition of All the Way Live with the Byrds. I am one half of your dynamic duo, and I go by the name of Dr. James Byrd. And to me, my beautiful, lovely wife, my bride of 29 years in a couple of days. And she goes by the name of
Dr. Angel Byrd.
And together we are the Byrds. All right. We'll go ahead and get settled for about 20, 25, 30 minutes of good marriage material. Something that will help you if you're married, if you're single, you want to be married, if you're in a relationship and you're trying to figure out, are we marriage material? Well, this show is for you. And so I just want to personally say, during this COVID-19 pandemic time, a lot of stress and a lot of struggle, a lot of stress and struggle in the marriage. When I say that, in a lot of people's marriages. And so, I don't think there's a better time to have this show going live every Friday night than right now. And so, your next voice you'll hear is one that is much softer and sweeter than mine. That's Dr. Angel Byrd.
Welcome to the show. Once again, gather your little fingers, choose whichever one you want to use to push the button and share the message with other marriage couples, and let's do this thing. We got some good information. It will bless your life, so share. Please share with others. Yay. That's what I got.
All right. Well, as you can see from the title there, today's topic is conflict, a barrier to intimacy. And I'm sure just by the name or just by the title, you can understand that conflict is a barrier to intimacy. And anybody who's been in a relationship long enough can understand, even before we start diving in, how yes, conflict can absolutely be a barrier to intimacy. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, a little bit, how conflict is a barrier to intimacy, and some things that you can try to look at and see things in a different light, a different way, to keep the conflict from being a barrier to your intimacy in your relationship. All right, so you're ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. Well, first of all, conflict does function, as we say, as a barrier to intimacy. And so just in thinking about that, when you can be feeling good, everything's going great, and all of a sudden you have a misunderstanding about something, and some conflict arise, and all of the feelings that you felt just 5 minutes ago can all of a sudden dissipate. They can all of a sudden be gone. Because just like we're sitting here, conflict got in between you, and it created a barrier, it created a wall, it created a separation to those feelings that you just felt. Conflict literally reached inside your heart, reached inside your mind, and everything that you were feeling, and what you were feeling like doing, and everything that was in there, conflict came in there and said, don't think about that. No, don't think about that. Think about this. It's kind of like a little demon. Just, no. Don't think about your spouse like this. Think about this. And so, man, that's just, man, when you think about it like that, it's like you don't want conflict in your relationship.
Ever,
because you really, really want to keep the intimacy in your relationship. You want to be thinking right about your spouse, right about your relationship, right about your family. And when you're thinking right about one another, it helps you in all the other areas of your life. Listen, I can't go in my office and study effectively if if I've had conflict with my wife, because now I'm thinking, okay, did I say something that I shouldn't have said? What's the deal? How's she feeling? I mean, all these things are going through your head, through your thoughts are going through your mind. And if they're not, wow. I mean, if you can have a conflict with your spouse and it doesn't bother you in anything, you can go to work and not even think about them. You're either used to having conflict and you don't care, and it's just normal. It's part of your normalcy curve, and that's dangerous. But for me, I don't like the conflict, and I don't like the intimacy being gone in the relationship. And so, if I've just had conflict, then it takes a moment for me to think about it, for me to go into my toolbox in my mind and my thoughts and figure out either what's going on and what did I miss, and let me understand our differences. And I have to go in there and dig in deep and that's just me, that's just her, and get myself all together before I can be fine. Now I don't know about you, but it can affect me.
Yeah, I just think people need to focus on how to get ahead of it and deal with it on the other end, so you don't have to deal with it on that end. If you can control yourself in the things you say and do on the front end, then you won't be having to have the mind battles in those thoughts and trying to get back to where you need to be. So how do you fix it on the front end to prevent the back end? And so you got to really, really think about those things, because most of the time, anything we do, the regrets is always when you now finally settle down, calm down, and you have time to think about it. But what about in the beginning, before you get to that point where the conflict is now over, but it's not over? And so you got to think first. You can't think always trying to come up with a solution only after you keep doing it over and over and over again. You got to be able to stop it, and just stop it as it's starting. So you got to remember that. What do you do with your mind? What do you do with your thoughts? How do you control your flesh? How do you get that thing under control so you have less and less and less? We're all going to have them. But how do you get to a point where you control it on the front end?
That's good. And that was my next kind of point. Our intimacy really lies in the results of our battles against misunderstandings. Our relationship, the success of our relationship and the success of our intimacy, it lies in our results and how victorious we can be, how dominant we can be over misunderstandings and conflict and disagreements, things like that. And so what you're saying is 100%. You want to be able to get on the front end more often than not, because if you keep having to deal with it and then coming back and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or going and praying and say, "I shouldn't have did that. I shouldn't have said that." You can't take back what kept happening. What's happening as far as as far as the conflict is, and as far as the wall of your intimacy. And so, and once the intimacy goes so far, so many couples struggle and they can't get back. And so we want to help you keep from getting back. This conflict is destructive. Think of it like this: destructive to the emotional bond that should be taking place between a couple. And every conflict or misunderstanding, it can yield two different valid perspectives that deserve equal weight. And that's what, in the heat of the moment, we don't understand, we don't think about, we don't realize. Some people never think about that and realize that. I'm gonna say that again. I want you to really hear this. Almost every conflict or almost every misunderstanding can yield two different valid perspectives that deserve equally being listened to and equally being understood. There's always potentially something to learn from your spouse's point of view. And it may not, that doesn't mean that when you sit and listen to their perspective and you try to see it from their way, that doesn't mean that you're going to say, "You know what, that's right, I was wrong." It's not even always about right or wrong. It's about understanding that we can have two different perspectives on something often. Why? Because we're two different people and we think two different ways and we're wired two different ways. And sometimes we say things that are not necessarily exactly how we meant it. The words that we say may not have been what we really mean, or we thought we said something and didn't say it that way. So all these things can cause misunderstandings. And so just alone understanding that I don't have to, it's not about necessarily one being wrong and one being right. It's just about understanding that, okay, I had a perspective on this and my spouse had a perspective on this. And let's respect each other's perspective from it. And where we can, see if we can learn something from their perspective. If nothing else, learn more about them and understanding how they're wired differently than us. All right?
Good point.
And so now what we need is a bridge to understanding each other better. All right? And so I'm going to talk about a couple.
So if somebody going to like move in or something with people, just make them like, is that going to be their bridge?
if for some people, they might need somebody to move in with them.
Like, they're going to be someone move in. You're going to have a translator 24 hours. I mean, what does that bridge look like? Because most people are not successful building their own bridges. Okay, go ahead.
All right. And so if you can't get somebody to move in with you, then we're going to talk about some potentially, listen, the bridge, we understand the bridge is built in your thought life. Okay. And so what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about some things that try to adjust the way you think. That's where the bridge is built, in adjusting the way you think. And so, so a couple of things I jotted down. We need to go from viewing the problem as the other person's fault to viewing the problem as something that is attacking our intimacy. Okay. We know this, when we're having conflict or misunderstanding, we all of a sudden, we lose our mind for a moment and we're like, no, this is what happened. No, this is what I said. No, this is what, and we lose our sanity for a brief moment, some people.
That's really scary though. You know, where you have some people lose it where they have no control and don't even know they're in that state.
Yeah.
So how does someone control something that they don't even know that they're doing?
Well, first of all, they have to recognize that that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And they have to.
No, I know the answer. I'm
But
just
they
kind
don't
of.
know.
Yeah, they
so-
don't know. And so if they're not being counseled and they don't have the proper tools, this will go on until they're depleted of just cannot talk to that person, cannot stand that person, don't even want to have conversations with this person so you can somewhat keep the peace. And so once a person is depleted in that area, they can't hear anyone. And so it's like, I guess my heart really goes out when people don't, do my heart go out if they won't get it, the information that they need to have to be better? But yes, my heart do go out because I'm just so passionate about relationships and people doing things the correct way. And so you got to get the tools that you need. And even people with the tools have to use the tools. You know, so, yeah, that's kind of tough.
And listen, and a lot of times having the tools, it's not going to always keep you from something happening and having to fix. Listen, if I have a garage full of tools and nothing ever breaks down in my house, I never use those tools. Those tools are there in case something happens, that I'm able to fix it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the tools that we teach and people give when it comes to relationships, they are there to help you get back quickly.
Yeah.
Listen, the problem with most people in their relationships is not the fact that they have conflict. The problem with most people's relationship is that they have conflict and it doesn't get resolved. Or they have conflict and they don't get over it. Or they have conflict and they go on but they still feel like that she's the problem, he's the problem, whatever. Instead of really, I don't care if we go at it for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes. If when we're done and we can go into our tool, we can go into the garage and go in our mind and go into our toolbox and say, you know what, That's just that's a D, that's an S, that's it. I'm wired different. Yeah, that's just different. That's her perspective is fine. But we don't have to necessarily agree on that. But we love each other. I love God. And then boom, you're back, and it's repaired. But everybody can't do that.
No.
And so I feel we're fortunate that we can have those, especially because we've said this. I mean, those that watched us for a long time. We think different. We're different as than a lot of people, more different than a lot of people. But that's okay because we have the tools to understand how to work together. And if we bump into something, we can go into the reservoir in our thought life and fix it, and not let it go for days and months and weeks and years and destroy the relationship like some people's can. So when we are in conflict or misunderstandings, we for the moment, as I said, we lose our spouse's perspective on whatever we were discussing. And so if you do this, as soon as it's over, whether both you just agree to disagree or somebody walks off or you say, I don't want to hear it no more, and you walk off, as soon as that happens, I want you to think about this. That, you know what, wait a minute. All I was thinking about for that 5 minutes while we was going at it was my way, my thought, what I had to say, and what they weren't hearing. What were they thinking? Now that you've gone to your corners, we say, now that you've gone to your corners, there's no need at this point, you're separated. There's no need at this point for you to continue to defend your thoughts and your ways. So now, at least now when you're away from them, at least go and start thinking, okay, well, what possibly were they trying to say? What were they thinking? What? And calm yourself down and settle yourself down. And so put that maybe that's your hammer. Put that in your tool belt to help you with your thoughts. And then once you accept the idea that in every disagreement, there are always two potentially valid points of views. Now, some of people are struggling with me saying that. But just because you don't think their point of view is valid, don't mean it's not valid. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The Bible says we all think we're right in our own eyes. Mm-hmm. And so I think my viewpoint was the only one that was valid in that discussion, and she was out of her mind. Or she thinks hers was the only one that was valid, and he's out of his mind. That's a major problem, and we gotta stop thinking like that.
I just think based on how long it goes, in that whole debate or that conflict that's taking place, at that moment, I don't care who it is, you got to be thinking that you can't stop, or you just got to keep on trying to prove your point. Mm-hmm. And so you got to be thinking that your way is right and the other person is wrong. Wouldn't keep trying to prove your point.
Everybody, that's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
100%, that's what I was saying, 100%. Everybody's thinking that way. And so what we're doing is we're giving you tools to say, even though you were thinking that way, now you got to walk away and understand that, wait a minute, that's not right. I can't just think like that. And if you do that enough, then that'll keep you from having the conflicts as much as you stated earlier. They're going to happen here and there. They're going to happen. But you got to keep them from happening all the time and just, like I said, never coming back from them and just weighing on your intimacy. And so if you're able to, every time you go away from a disagreement or misunderstanding, begin to reflect on your spouse's potential point of view and understand, you know what, of course I thought I was right. And of course they thought they was right, or we wouldn't have been having a tit for tat. But guess what? Maybe I was right to me, and maybe they were right to them. Maybe my perspective was the way I saw it, and their perspective was the way they saw it. So there doesn't have to be a loser in this. There don't have to be a wrong. We were both right in our own perspective. And I'm saying most of the time, many times it's like that. I know there are one-offs, and there are things where, somebody just flat out wrong. And, so we're not necessarily talking about that. But I'm just talking about in the grace perspective, type areas. And so one of the things that I want to use today to help people see that this is a potential, because remember I just said, I think a lot of people struggle when you say that, we can both have a perspective that can be right. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because everyone thinks that they're right in their own eyes. And so here we go. This is the example. I wish I was doing a video at this point, but I'm gonna paint this picture for you. Picture a elephant, a big, large elephant. All right, and then I want you to picture 6 people standing at different points of the elephant, from the trunk to the tail, all along the way. 6 different people. All right, and these people are blindfolded. Okay, and they're going to grab a certain part. Touch a certain part of the elephant, and they have to tell you what this is. Now, there's no smell involved. They can't smell. The elephant's not making any noise. They're just touching. All right, and they've got to figure out what it is. All right, and I want you to see the different perspectives that all 6 of these people will have by touching the same object from a different point of view. All right, so when the first person touched the leg, he said, "This is a pillar."
But even though he knows that.
No, they don't know it. They don't know what it is. They're blindfolded, and there's no smell. So they don't know what this object is.
Okay.
Okay, they're blindfolded. They're touching this object, this large object, from 6 different perspectives. So the first one touches a leg and says, "This is a pillar." Okay. The second person, he says, "No, this is a rope," because he had the tail. He said, "No, this is a rope." The third one said, "No, this is a thick branch of a tree," and he had the trunk of the elephant. The fourth person said, "This is like a big hand fan, a really big hand fan." He had the ear of the elephant. The fifth one said, "No, this is a huge wall." He was touching the belly of the elephant. And finally, the 6th person said, "It's a solid pipe," as he was touching the tusk of the elephant. And so all 6 people were touching the same object, and they had 6 different perspectives. Now, we looking in, knowing that it's an elephant, we can look and see that actually all of them were correct. All of them were correct in the fact that what they touched felt like what they said it was. But in all actuality, when you step back and look out and see the big picture, we know what it was. We know it's an elephant. Well, the same thing can happen in your relationships. You got your perspective based upon the way you see it. So what you see is what you're touching. What she sees is what she's touching. Well, sometimes when you get away from it, I know I can do this one time, when you get away from it, the discussion, the disagreement, the misunderstanding, and you look back at the bigger picture, you can really see what it is. And for us, we can see that it's just one person have a different perspective of it, or it's just that's the way she thinks versus the way I think. That's the way she responds versus the way I respond. It's just the differences of the way we're wired and how we are. And so we can look back and see that, because we can now go out and see the big picture of it. But when you're in the heat of it, you're so close to it, and all you are is locked in on your perspective. And so the next time you're at, this is another thing. So you can pick any of these, but when you're having your next conflict and you can't get out of it quickly, picture it as an elephant. Listen, picture the conflict as an elephant. Don't picture your spouse as an elephant. That's not what I said. I don't want nobody saying they're in the middle of a conflict and they say, "Well, Pastor Jay and Dr. A, they told me to look at you like an elephant." No, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have some problems there that you're going to need us to fix. So that's one good way that you can do that. And then here's another good one. Do you have any comments on the elephant before I go to another?
No.
Okay. And then here's another one. I think it's a good one, especially right now. If you get into a conflict, a misunderstanding, a disagreement, and you can't get out of it, or once you get out of it, see yourselves as having 2 different jerseys with 2 different colors and 2 different names on them. For example, see one of you having on a Chiefs jersey and the other one having on a Ravens jersey.
Why not Raiders?
Well, because the Chiefs play the Ravens this week, Monday night. The Chiefs play the Ravens, so it was just relevant.
Yeah, okay.
It was just relevant. Yeah. I mean, I'm about to make a bunch of people upset, but who cares about the Raiders? They haven't been relevant in 10, 15 years. I just wanted to pick a team that's kind of relevant right now. And so I know you're from LA and all that, but they're not relevant. The Ravens and the Chiefs, they playing on Monday Night Football. And so that's going to be a battle. That's going to be a war. They're going at it from the time that game starts to the time that game ends. They're going at it. And so you picture that's not how you want to be in your relationship. You don't want to be going at it until somebody taps out, until somebody is raised out and say, I got the victory. You don't want to see that. So what you have to do is figure out then, okay, how can we both put on a Chiefs jersey? How can we both put on the red and gold? How can we both get that Super Bowl ring that my boys just got? How can we both do that? You got to get out of that war and get on the same page. And getting on the same page is sometimes it's just saying, you know what? Is this really that big of a deal? No, it's not. It's your perspective, my perspective. You know what? You saw it that way, I saw it this way. It ain't even worth blocking our intimacy. Sometimes, it's just like, you know what? Time out. You know what? Let's do a redo. There's all kind of things that you can try. You see what I'm saying? But the thing is, you have to try it. When you walk away, redo in your mind. When you walk away, again, the main thing you have to do when you walk away is let go of I was right, because both of you thought you were right, or there would not have been any disagreement or misunderstanding. It wouldn't have been any conflict if both of you didn't think you're right. Listen, let me tell you, if one of you is thinking that the other person, they think they're right, I got a news flash for you. You thought you were right too. You both think you're right at that time, or there's no conflict. So walk away from that conflict and say, you know what? It ain't about me being right and them not being right. It's about trying to move this wall that's trying to come in between us, destroy this intimacy, this block, this barrier, destroy this barrier, break down this barrier that's trying to come in between our intimacy. Because that's what you need in your relationship, in your marriage. You need intimacy to make a long-lasting marriage. Too many walls leads to too many divorces, leads to too many marriages experiencing infidelity, cheating, all that. All that kind of stuff doesn't happen without barriers to intimacy. I don't know any couple that's intimate with God and intimate with one another at a high level that goes out and they cheat on one another. It doesn't happen. So it has to be something that's breaking your intimacy on a regular basis and you're not getting back from it.
Yep.
All right. So it's not just a couple of things for you could try to think about. You can think about others, but the main thing is think about something that's going to go into your mind and build a bridge to the intimacy and tear down the barriers that fight against you. All right. So any final words you have for the people today?
I just hope that you have the ability to apply what was said and it's just not a conversation that you have. And I pray that you will work on it, because if not, there's no way that you can go down this road for long periods of time and it not do damage. And just like people have heart attacks, people have open heart surgeries, all kind of different things, even though you see them walking and moving and they seem fine and functioning well, but there's some parts of their heart or something that may not ever work the same again. And you can actually do that in your relationship with constant conflict, where you will be together. It appear that it's okay, but it will be a part that's damaged that will never ever get back to where it needs to be if you keep going down that road of just constant debate, constant conflict. No human being can do that forever and survive it.
And then also, I didn't say this, but also guess what? It's okay to say, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. You know what? I was wrong. Or you know what? If that's what I said, I didn't mean it to say that. It's okay to backpedal. It's okay to we all do. Sometimes I say the wrong thing. Sometimes she says the wrong. Everybody can say the wrong thing at times. Everybody can. And so it's okay. We're flawed. It's okay to say, you know what? I shouldn't have said it like that. Or you know what? Yeah, that's my fault. I'm sorry. Let's redo. Let's get back. That's not the way I should have said it. And just backpedal, repent, ask for forgiveness, and move on back to your intimacy. All right. And then the last thing I want to say is happy 29th anniversary to my baby, my boo, my bride, my sweet thing, my lovely one, my wifey. We will be celebrating 29 years on this Sunday, and so basically this weekend. And I can absolutely 100% say that God blessed me with this beautiful woman, and she has been my ride or die. She's with me through everything that we do concerning our children, our family, our finances, our spiritual, the marriage ministry, the church, everything. And I know that God gave me somebody that has my back, and I'm so thankful and so grateful for you. I love you so much, and even though this is a COVID pandemic year that we decided not to fly away and travel and go out and be all around people like we a lot of times like to do, it doesn't change the fact that it's still another year that we made it, and I'm happy to be married to you. And we'll catch up on the travel when things settle down.
Settle down. Wow, that was pretty cool. And so I would be remiss to allow him to say happy anniversary to me and not say it back to him. And I'm so grateful that he's my children's father. I'm so grateful that I married a man who loves God more than he loves me, because that makes me safe. And if you haven't had that experience, no matter what you go through, if you have someone that loves God more than he loves you, then you can win in that situation. And I'm just grateful that we get to do life together, ministry together, our passions together, and everybody doesn't get those kind of opportunities. So I feel like I'm favored by God, and I'm grateful for it.
Amen. Amen. All right. Well, this again has been All the Way Live with the Love Byrds, where I am one half of your dynamic duo. I go by the name of Dr. James Byrd. My lovely wife, and she goes by the name of
Dr. Angel Byrd.
And again, together we are the Love Byrds. And we will see you next Friday, same time, same channel.
Anybody got a prescription, yeah, for this love pain? Anybody got a pill like a pop for this love pain? Anybody got a prayer for this love pain, yeah? Ooh, I need it for this love pain. Anybody got a prescription, yeah, for this love